Thank you, Cian Corla. Taoiseach, yesterday you marked 4 years of this Fine Gael Labour Party neoliberal government. Today, that same agenda is creating huge uncertainty among Aer Lingus workers, their families and the communities who depend on Aer Lingus for both employment and connectivity. Anxiety created by you refusing to decisively reject the bid by IAG to buy the government's shares. It's a decision, Taoiseach, which could see us relinquish any public control over the airline and over this island's aviation bridge to the rest of the world, leaving foreign-owned private companies, whose only concern is profit, by the way, with full control over access in and out of this country. Taoiseach, your Minister Donoghue has sent IAG off with a little tut-tut to come back with a better price in the next few weeks. But the consequences for this country will last a lot longer than it will take to spend the bag of silver that you'll get for any sale of Aer Lingus. Not alone would this country lose a profitable company, something you spend a fortune sending the IDA out to find, but there are massive implications in North Dublin, in Cork, in Shannon and in the Limerick regions, which are struggling in the recession. Now, we keep being told relentlessly by the media that poor little Aer Lingus won't survive alone. But poor little Aer Lingus has been making healthy profits for years, and in 2013, 61.1 million operating profits. And you might tell some of your young deputies, like Deputy Harris there, if they can contain themselves with the flattery and attention from this multinational company for a moment, that Aer Lingus does not need IAG. IAG needs Aer Lingus. And that's the view of the pilots from Aer Lingus and of many others, because Aer Lingus has a deal
Question, please. Thank you.
that other airlines want to get their hands on, the Heathrow slots, valued by Deloitte at 925 million, but actually invaluable to this country. So would you agree that your cast-iron guarantee that you're seeking on connectivity is just pathetic and will be gone after 5 years?
Thank you.
As would be all of the jobs
put your question, please. Thank you.
Flight, in airline catering and in flight maintenance as well, and many others besides. The brand itself would likely be integrated
Put your question.
quickly,
Thank you.
as has been the pattern with other takeovers. So, Taoiseach, can I put it to you that the selling off of the remaining public stake in Aer Lingus will be economic and social treachery? Will you right the wrong that Fianna Fáil did 10 years ago by privatising Aer Lingus in the first place? Will you throw aside your ideological attachment to privatisation? Will you refuse to not just sell off the 25% stake, but to establish full public ownership of Aer Lingus in the months ahead? If the government can...
Sorry, Deputy, would you please resume your seat now? Thank you. You're way over time.
Invest taxpayers' money in bankrupt banks. Surely it can invest taxpayers' money in a strategic asset like Aer Lingus, which links us...
Sorry, Deputy, would you obey the chair, please? Thank you. Taoiseach, thank you.
This is an important matter. Deputy Coppinger seems to be of the view that the government should acquire Aer Lingus in its entirety. This would cost about £1 billion, I would say. You're aware that the government rejected the bid that came in from IAG. Now, I make this point to you. Back in 2012, when the government decided that the shares held by the state in Aer Lingus could be considered as part of a number of assets that might be disposed of, depending on whether it was appropriate to do so, whether the price was acceptable, and whether the conditions of any such sale were in the best interest of the people. And Minister Donoghue has been very clear on following through with that. The fact of the matter is that this is a matter of genuine concern and interest to the workers, to their families, to the localities and the environments in Dublin, in Cork and in Shannon. Issues in regard to the Heathrow slots, issues in regard to connectivity with the United States, and the use of Shannon, Cork and Dublin. It's already public knowledge, Deputy Coppinger, that there will be a further meeting between officials from the Department of Transport and IAG this week, and obviously the Department will inform the Minister of the issues that are presented at that discussion by IAG. And it's very clear the Minister for Transport has not been in a position and is not in a position to make a recommendation to government. And obviously the conditions set out by government in regard to Aer Lingus are very clear. This airline was privatised quite a number of years ago with a different administration, and the government now hold 25.1% in respect of the people. The conditions that we have set for considering any offer are very clear and haven't been reached by any discussions that have taken place to date.
Deputy Coppinger, 1 minute supplementary. Thank you.
Taoiseach, the taxpayer spends billions in supporting the so-called enterprise and employment sector in this country, in any case. It seems to me that you are well disposed towards selling off the last remaining public control of Aer Lingus from your answer. And that would mean that very shortly thousands of jobs will be jeopardised, not just in North Dublin, but in Cork, Limerick and in the Shannon area as well. Taoiseach, I'm not sure if you read the article by the economist Paul Sweeney last Friday, but he made an excellent case for Aer Lingus, not only for the control to be maintained to the 25%, but for you to seek to buy, for example, Ryanair shares, which will become available most likely very shortly. And I think the case was extremely well made that you should snap those up. How do you think regional development is going to be protected by a private company controlling Aer Lingus?
Thank you.
As it is, any scale down of operations, for example in Cork Airport, would have a devastating impact. Limerick is on its knees as it is from the recession and from the attacks that there's been on the Shannon stopover. So Taoiseach, there's huge issues at stake here. And it's an awful pity there's nobody from the Labour Party here to hear the debate. But, OK, very good.
Sorry, would you put your question, please?
But it would be But Taoiseach, can you answer why that you're so ideologically opposed to maintaining this share, very short-term interests, and for renationalising Aer Lingus?
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Well, Deputy Coppinger, you mentioned about multinationals. Multinationals employ huge numbers in your own constituency. You should bear that in mind when you comment about investment from abroad. Secondly, you are incorrect when you say that this is a publicly owned company. It's not. The government have a minority share in Aer Lingus, and I've pointed out the details of that to you. Thirdly, the government have announced a specific regional development strategy covering a whole range of areas. Limerick is not on its knees. It's fighting back very strongly. I was there on Friday for the announcement by Northern Trust of a further 300 employees to bring their number to over 1,000 by 2017. The government's decision with the Minister for Transport to give Shannon its independence is an indication of the potential that Shannon can achieve and will achieve in the time ahead. I don't accept your comment at all. And the question here for the Minister for Transport, in considering whether he can come to government with a specific recommendation or not, is about Shannon, is about Cork, is about Dublin, is about the slots from Heathrow, and is about guaranteed connectivity across the Atlantic. You will understand, of course, that both Dublin and Shannon are only two of very few places where you can have pre-clearance for the United States, which is a major feather, if you like, in Ireland's particular portfolio. So, the Minister will continue to monitor this very closely. In the meeting this week between officials of his department and IAG will be brought to his attention, and we keep this under very close scrutiny in the context of the conditions that we've set out. Is the price acceptable? Are the conditions acceptable? Is it in the interests of Ireland and of its people? And as has been pointed out by others, you have to look very carefully at the consequences of not considering seriously whatever final opportunity or option might be presented.